Hi, and thanks for joining me here at Data Popcorn for a fun presentation. If you blink, you might miss it. All about some new functionality, not so new anymore, from SQL Server 2022 that is distinct from and is not distinct from syntax. So let's just dive right on in and how this can help us out and make our lives better. This is me, Ed Pollack. I do a whole lot in the data platform space. I really enjoy this. It's fun. I love diving into everything and anything data and breaking stuff. It's all great. Organize lots of events. Feel free to join me, and let's just keep going. So, what is this all about here? 2022 kind of snuck in some new T-SQL, and it's kind of a big deal. And I was surprised at how big of a deal it was and how it got very little fanfare. Basically, it's is distinct from and is not distinct from. What does this do? Is distinct from is checking to see are two values different, but there's a but here, a really good one. It includes null. Now, null isn't a value. We know that null doesn't equal anything, but null is not the same as 1. Null isn't the same as 25. We know that. We understand that idea. And many queries look for that as well. Many queries will try to write something on the lines of, is A not equal to B? Or is A null? Or is B null? Or something like that, trying to determine, are they different, including null? And if you use equals or not equal to, you run into ANSI nulls issues and may not get what you want back. You'll make it a row count that includes null and you don't want to, or it doesn't include null and you'd rather include it. And that's it. It includes null. Is not distinct from is the opposite. Is not distinct from checks to see are two values equal. And if it has null and something else, they're not equal. If it has two nulls, they're the same. Now again, null isn't a value, but it's checking to see are two things the same or not the same. And if you happen to have two nulls, they're the same. If you happen to have null and something else, they're not the same. And that's important. Again, this is replacing tedious SQL that we don't enjoy writing. Is A not equal to B or A null or B null, and then not the whole thing or something wacky like that. Like that's not fun to check. It's a lot of work. And we can easily make mistakes because simple SQL is easier to document and debug and work with than complicated SQL. And so we're taking really long, messy, icky SQL and replacing it with something simpler. And as a bonus, we don't make less mistakes. It's very, very often in the world of data that people will try to write equals or not equals to, and they'll forget a column's nullable. They'll forget to say, oh, where column A is not null, or where column A is null, or things like that. They'll just forget because it's easy to forget. We don't always check for that, and most developers don't think of that at the front of their mind when they're writing code. So what does this mean? It actually means a lot of things. It means more than I just said. Not only can we safely compare nullable columns and values and ensure that we get back meaningful answers, the optimizer can parse it effectively, which means that you can use is distinct from or not distinct from, and it will get applied to indexes. So if you have columns that are indexed and use this against the index column, you'll get a nice index seek if that's what you're looking for. It simplifies your SQL. It's available in 2022 plus, and as an additional bonus, if you happen to be in 2022 but you're in a lower compatibility level for whatever reason, maybe you just upgraded recently or you have some compatibility issues, it will still work. You can be in 2008 R2 compatibility level while running SQL Server 2022, and you can use it as distinct from and is not distinct from, and it'll work perfectly fine. Now, as a bonus here, we can just look at the outputs here. This is kind of a truth table that kind of tells us what do things look like. Now, we know that 0, if let's say we're taking not distinct from, are things equal. We know 0 equals 0. It's true. And not distinct from B, A not distinct from B is also true. No surprise there. If A is 0, B is 1. If A is 1, B is 0. False, right? 1 is not equal to 0. We also know that. Where this becomes useful is when we say, well, what about if A is 0 or 1, but B is null? Or what if B is 0 and 1 and A is null? Well, if you do quality, the answer is unknown. I have no idea if 0 equals null. I'm not in that level of math here, and you shouldn't be either. But if I ask, is A not distinct from B, you get back false. If I have null for A and B, clearly that's undefined, unknown. I have no idea what in the world that means. But if you were to say A is not distinct from B, then null is not distinct from null, therefore to be true. And so this is kind of how it would look on the outputs if you were to apply it like this. And if you were to say is distinct from, you would just flip all this and get the opposite. And so this is pretty cool and new and very, very useful. So is not distinct from and is distinct from help us a lot. They can improve performance on queries that check nullable columns that can have nulls. They can simplify your code and make it shorter and better. It'll be easy to understand and document. And your ANSI nulls issues go away. So scenarios where you were using equal, not equal to, against, or greater than, or less than, or whatever, against ANSI null columns that are nullable, all the random weird results you got that you didn't quite want go away. And as a note, please keep ANSI nulls on. It's the default. You want that. Do not turn that off. And with that, brand new fun T-SQL. If you've never used it before, have fun, enjoy it, and I will see you soon.